Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM 89.0, ArrowFM, and MPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
And this week we had a pay-per-view, and what does a pay-per-view mean? That means we're going to spend the episode running it down and talking about the stuff that fell out from the pay-per-view. Fell out is the word I'm looking for there. And we actually have a little bit of NXT to talk about this week as well. So we're heading into the pay-per-view. We had 7 matches announced. Did nothing on the pre-show. And a little bit of a surprise, they didn't actually move any of those 7 to the pre-show. Instead, they just chucked on a new one. It was Humberto Carrillo taking on Andrade. It feels like these two may be destined to go back and forth for quite a while.
I suppose it's very possible. I mean, they're very talented, and they seem to enjoy working together.
Mm-hmm.
They put on some good matches.
Every time I see Andrade in a match, and it's really shows when it's against a guy like Humberto, is like, this is what Alberto could have been. As we talked about last week, you had Del Rio, now you've got Andrade, and it feels like such a step up.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me is what will he be able to do with the impending, seemingly breakup with Selena.
Mm-hmm.
How will he be able to fare without Selena as his mouthpiece?
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one, because I think he's had Zelina since he debuted in NXT?
It wasn't long after he debuted. He was as CN.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
For a while. And then when he turned heel, that's when he paired up with Selena, and his career took off.
Yeah, I don't know, I feel like the guy can fare pretty well without a mouthpiece. It's just, when you separate someone who's been so tightly coupled with them, you just got to keep an eye on, where does the heat go? Does he lose a bunch of it? I got a feeling he's got a lot of the heat himself, so, Zelina going away shouldn't affect that. He's got to carry promos on his own. I don't think that's going to be a problem for the guy. He's done heaps of that work, pre-WWE stuff. So, fingers crossed and all signs point to him being okay after the split up, but, it's never good to see what was such a good manager-client relationship, especially nowadays when the concept of a manager barely exists. But yeah, so that was our pre-show. And enough of us drooling over Andrade, so let's move on to the main show. We got the SmackDown Tag Team Championships on the line in a ladder match. The New Day, Big E and Kofi Kingston took on and successfully defended against the Revival.
Fantastic match. Simply fantastic. Absolutely enjoyed it. What can you say? The Revival really are one of the best tag teams in the world. And basically, the New Day have become legends.
A bit of a change from last week when we were saying, man, we've seen this matchup so many times.
Yeah, but we also said that we probably figured it'd be good.
Yeah. They just surprised by being great. Yeah, the Revival and the New Day, as much as they faced off previously a million times, it seems like, they brought something new to this match in a way to make it completely and utterly exciting. In the end, the right outcome, I believe. I don't think it's time to just throw the belts over to the Revival for no reason. But we'll have to see what's happening, because the SmackDown Tag Team division isn't flourishing, really. And our next best team up, if we look the SmackDown beforehand, we actually had Tucker and Otis, I believe, as I'm double checking, a Heavy Machinery, lose to Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro. So it feels like we're building Nakamura and Cesaro, but Nakamura's still meant to be a little bit busy.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what they're doing with him. They gave him a bright, shiny new belt. Hasn't defended it once since getting it.
Yeah, like if I'm looking
Wasn't even on the pay-per-view.
Yeah. He's doing more in the tag team division with Cesaro than he is the Intercontinental division. I think if you're not going to use him in that role, it's time to take that belt off him. And if you're giving Nakamura and Cesaro, that heel tag team rub at the top, and throw them in there, but take the IC belt off him first. And then talking about... Nope, I'm not going to use the mid-card transition here. I'm gonna bail out of that one. Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy, my boy versus my boy.
They went to war. An absolute war. 14 minutes.
Yep.
We were concerned it might get 5.
we said give it 10 to 15, and they did exactly that.
Yeah. That's pretty much all you can say. It was just, they went at it. And they brought it. And I had a lot of fun watching them go at it. So, do I want to see it again? Heck yes. And they're going to give it to us again in a couple weeks.
Of course. Match of the night?
Close.
Oh. Is match of the night still to come?
Actually, the match I enjoyed the most was the ladder tag team championship match.
Yeah, that's where I expected you to sway back to.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to check. Yeah, honestly, this pay-per-view started off real good. Not saying it went to poop later on, I'm just going with these first 2 matches on the main card, the tag ladder match and Black versus Murphy were amazing matches. If you only tuned in for the first hour, you saw some quite good matches. And then next up, we've already talked about the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Now it's time to talk about the Raw Tag Team Championship. The champions, the Viking Raiders, took on the best tag team in the world, the OC, and didn't end cleanly.
Well, it definitely appears they're building something here, but to what, I don't know. And I'm not sure I want to see. That said, it was a decent match. I wasn't expecting a great match. So, I guess we got what I was expecting.
I feel like, even if we jump over to Raw the day after, the OC managed to defeat the Viking Raiders, but I feel like this is stalling. This is stalling until AOP are ready to take the belts.
I will say this, it does present an interesting storyline for the Viking Raiders. They've now lost twice and have a draw against the OC.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's creating a situation in a storyline of, can they actually beat the OC?
Yeah.
So that when they do, probably at the Royal Rumble, it might mean more than just them beating them and moving on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think it's going to build towards that. The Viking Raiders finally get that win. Yeah, and then AOP are there. I don't know. I can't get it out of my sights. This AOP versus Viking Raiders tag team match for the belts later on down the line. And obviously not Rumble, because we've still got to finish off OC and Viking Raiders, but maybe Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania type ways. We might see AOP with some gold or some silver around their waists. But if we're talking about the AOP, we're going to talk about some Seth Rollins stuff as well. Also missing off the pay-per-view was the United States Championship. And Seth Rollins has staked his claim to that one.
Yeah, well, he's definitely coming after the United States Champion.
Yeah,
And with his 2 big ham hocks bodyguards, I'm not sure that he's not going to get what he wants.
Yeah, let's have an entire gauntlet match just to determine the next challenger. But nah, Seth doesn't want to do that gauntlet match stuff. Let's just give it to me. And as you say, with the AOP there, I'm not going to argue. But it looks as though, at least for the short term, that we're looking at some sort of Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio for the United States Championship. Rumor mill is circulating about a new design for the United States Championship as well. So maybe we see Seth Rollins and AOP all holding belts.
Possible.
Especially without the WWE Championship being anywhere to be seen, this United States Championship really is, the top prize. It's what everyone on Raw is fighting for. And so it makes sense for someone like Seth Rollins, who's been in the upper echelon, he's been fighting the Brock Lesnars of the world, to now be going after this top prize. Because when the actual top prize disappears, second place is kind of the best you got. But then we also have people looming in the background with Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and some other guys that don't quite want to let go either, so might not be as easy for Seth to grab that United States belt, or if he does, to hold on to it either. So we're going to go into our entrance theme, but our entrance theme's going to require us to recap a little bit of NXT that happened night of recording. So NXT came along and they decided to have a couple title matches on their show. One of them, Adam Cole versus Finn Balor for the NXT Championship. Adam Cole manages to successfully retain in that one. But the match that we're going to talk a little bit about was Shayna Baszler versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship. And we got ourselves a new champion.
Yeah, your girl's the new NXT Women's Champion.
Feels good. We talked about it a little while ago. It was a long time coming. Someone had to end Shayna Baszler's reign, and I think the right person was chosen.
Yep, and now Shayna can move on and come to the main roster so that she can do her deal with Becky.
Make the lateral move, please. The interesting part, obviously we just had Survivor Series. I'm delaying the entrance theme now. We just had Survivor Series and it was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. And, they're trying to build them as the three brands. My question then comes about of the Rumble. What's happening there? Are we going to see NXT people... Obviously, NXT people will enter, as they usually do, but are they sort of entering, not necessarily as surprise entrants, but legitimately entering just as brand competitors?
I suppose it's possible. I guess they would have to modify the stipulation for the winner is that you could be able to go after any women's championship and not just Raw or SmackDown. But in all honesty, they have enough women that they can just pluck a couple just for a one-time thing, and then not actually make it anything special for the brands.
Yeah, I don't know. I just see something in my head, where all three brands are involved, and Shayna Baszler enters, and maybe on NXT they'd been building this whole thing of Shayna trying to get her rematch. Like, she's trying to get the rematch for the NXT Women's title. She's not getting it. Enters the Rumble, manages to win it, and then she gets to choose Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. They tease her picking NXT. They tease her almost going back to try and get her a rematch, and then she swerves and picks Becky to the WrestleMania match that we all knew was happening anyway. I've got this image in my head, and so therefore that's what I'm looking at. I think
that's a little overbooking, to be honest.
Everything I say is overbooking. Have you not realized that in 6 years? I overbook everything to poop. It's better than some ideas. But because of Rhea Ripley winning the belt here, Josh has selected her song once again to play as the entrance theme of the week. You're back with the Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. My name's Grady, his is Josh, and we still have half of TLC to get through. So let's talk about the first TLC match of the TLC pay-per-view. King Corbin with his special buddies Dolph Ziggler, Dawson Wilder, and No Rude taking on Roman Reigns.
Well, it took an army to beat the big dog.
Yeah, pretty much, TLC match. We kind of expected Corbin to have a little bit of help here. Obviously Ziggler was going to be there. The Revival just made up the rest of his army, as you're calling it. And then it ended in a massive fight.
That then proceeded to happen for the rest of the show. Apparently. Supposedly.
Yeah,
they cutting away to it. And in the very end, after the main event, the pay-per-view ended with the brawl. Yeah,
they totally didn't just, walk out back, start eating catering, and then get cues to start fighting again. Totally not the case. But yeah, it was a fight between these two, and it's not over. That was made pretty clear.
Yeah. That said, the match was pretty darn good, even with the outside interactions.
Okay.
It was definitely my number 3 match of the night.
Okay. Is number 3 saying much at this point?
No, it wasn't anywhere near the number 1 and number 2. It was still really good.
1, 2, massive jump, 3, yeah. I think I'm with you on that. Because let's talk about the next match. And the next match was The Miz, as awesome as he is, taking on the Universal Champion Bray Wyatt.
Oh. It was a match.
I love it when we pull out the old, it was a match. It was an inconsequential match that was only there for its post-match segment.
Yeah. Yeah, in which we saw the return of 2010 Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, the short hair, short beard Daniel Bryan.
Which just really does present some interesting things in that apparently fighting Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, will transform you back into a previous version of yourself. Because you had Finn Balor, who got transformed back into the Prince in NXT. Then you had Seth Rollins, who was transformed back into a heel. And now you have Daniel Bryan, who was transformed back into the American Dragon.
Oh no. What does this mean for Miz?
That might mean that he's going to be transformed back into a tag team with John Morrison.
No. Well, maybe he'll be fine, because the Miz didn't actually fight the Fiend. He fought Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Maybe. Please. That is a good point, though. John Morrison is on the horizon, and I believe we still don't know what brand he is heading to. And you're about to cut me off with it, and I don't really care, aren't you?
No.
Okay. Will he team back with The Miz? I feel like, and I hope like, that's a very low chance.
Yeah, I would say that there's probably very little chance of it. That said, I do think we might see a segment between them. Just maybe Miz just welcoming him back, and then them having a match, and Miz doing Miz things and putting the guy over.
Yeah, I could see. If they get together, I don't think it'll be a long run. It'll be a 1-2 week thing, and then lead into a feud to put him over again. They're not going to put John Morrison and hype him up this much and then just put him into a tag team for the rest of his life. But they could start him off that way, maybe. Let's talk about the tables match. Rusev versus Bobby Lashley and his ex-wife Lana.
It was a decent match. I didn't really have a problem with it. Kind of sad that it's going to continue, but it is what it is, and that should be fun in a couple weeks when they have the quote-unquote wedding.
Yeah, because Lana and Bobby then over on Raw got engaged. It's a thing. It just keeps going, we were like, what could happen next? Maybe they'll get married. Oh, okay, yeah, we did go that way. Cool, I guess. Now, I don't know where they're going to go after this. Or even if, obviously it's a wedding and it's in wrestling, so it's not going to work out. But I still have no clue. There's 50 different million ways.
It's almost certain that they'll do a wedding segment and it'll get crashed by Rusev.
Yeah. But God knows where it goes from that. Yep. Now, let's jump on into this main event. This 26-minute marathon of a match. It was a TLC match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships with the titles held above the ring. The champions, the Kabuki Warriors, were taking on the team of Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair.
It was not good.
That's a way to put it.
I don't know. I don't know what it was. Charlotte had a great match with the Kabuki Warriors as a handicap match. Becky didn't have that good of a match. It wasn't a bad match. It was just not a good one.
Mm-hmm.
In her handicap match. But for some reason, these four did not work on Sunday. And it created a bad match. I just did not enjoy what I saw.
I didn't hate it. I thought the opening parts were fine. I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to do with the team of Becky and Charlotte. There was never a moment where I was sort of going, oh yeah, tension's building with them. It seemed as though they were just on the same page for 90% of it. When Charlotte needed to help Becky, she did. When Becky needed to help Charlotte, she did.
Except when Becky got tied up.
Charlotte tried.
Charlotte was a little busy with Kairi Sane.
That's true. I think this match is... whatever happened between the bells, it's going to be overshadowed by the fact that Kairi Sane clearly got hurt in the middle of the match. Like, when anybody's ever talking about this match, that's what they're going to talk about. Because I'm going to refrain from using certain words, just because I don't know what's confirmed and what's not. So I'm just going to say that Kairi Sane clearly got knocked loopy. At one point in the match, and it seemed as though after that, if you thought the rest of the match wasn't going great, it went downhill fast.
I personally think that the knocked loopy spot was not the so-called monitor spot. The monitors actually did not hurt her.
Oh no, they completely missed.
I think it was when she was trying to do her insane elbow from the announce tables onto Becky on the floor, and Becky countered with her foot. I think that's the spot that got her.
Yeah, I don't quite know, but there was definitely, by the end of that match, it was pretty clear that Kairi Sane was in no position to continue. Whether you picked up on it during the powerbomb, the spear, whether you picked up on it earlier than that, or when they're literally rolling her under the ring so she doesn't have to continue. It started to get a little messy towards the end, I gotta say that. But for a match that I can only assume that last part was all called on the fly, they did pretty well attempting to fix it up at the end. Should it have continued? That's a debate for another day, when we know more of the facts. But we know that heading into Raw, and I believe at least for a couple weeks, that Kairi Sane will not be in action. On Raw, we actually got Asuka versus Deonna Purrazzo from NXT. And I believe next week's shows have been taped, but we will not We will not spoil those shows for you until we talk about them next week. Is there anything that we have missed from SmackDown Raw or TLC or anywhere else in the wrestling world that you would like to mention this week, Josh? It's a real broad question.
I can't think of anything.
That means there was nothing big and important. Alright, well, it's been great talking to you then.
Bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling radio, Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling radio. And we'll see you next week with the, I believe, Christmas edition of the show.